been 5 weeks since I finished doing that 3-week case study, doing only the shakes. Since that time, I've every week bumped my calories back up. So basically added about 500 calories back in every week. So it went from 1,100 calories to roughly 1,600 calories, added another 500 to that, got to 2,100, and then finally added another 500 to that to get to 2,600, which is probably a hair higher than I need. I think 2,500 is probably the mark for me, but basically, long story short, have worked my way back into more of like a maintenance level of calories. So not losing weight, not gaining weight, which is kind of my goal.
Someone's fat loss strategy can be really quite simple. At the end of the day, you still have to cut calories a little bit, but as long as you maintain protein intake somewhat high, and let's say high as 1 gram per pound or 2.2 grams per kilo, somewhere in that area or higher, you will lose fat mass without sacrificing lean body mass.
Based on that, here's what I think is gonna happen when we go there today. At the conclusion of the 3 weeks, I had lost close to 20 pounds, but out of that 20 pounds, 6 of it was fat, which is a good reminder that there's a huge difference between fat loss versus weight loss. A lot of people do low calorie diets or keto diets and they drop a ton of weight in a couple days and they celebrate, but you gotta remember most of that, if not all of that initially, is water loss. Why? Because when you drop your carbohydrate intake, you're depleting your glycogen stores in your muscles and your liver, which is your stored glucose. Now, glycogen holds 3 times its weight in water. So as you deplete those reservoirs, you're also losing all the associated water. So now that my carbohydrate intake is back up to a normal level and those glycogen levels are replenished, I think most of what we're gonna see, if I had to guess, most of the weight that I've gained back is just that, is in water. We'll see what happens here. We're gonna roll up here in a little bit and see how accurate my guesses are. Out of the whole thing, what do you think would happen versus what did happen?
Well, I think anytime you're cutting calories, you can, if you're training hard, there's no reason to lose lean mass.
Right.
Even though most people who cut calories don't really train hard, they're usually cutting calories to lose weight, and they're gonna lose some lean body mass, but you don't have to. As long as protein intake is high and exercise is hard, there's absolutely no reason to lose lean body mass.
Right.
But most people don't train hard. That's really that's what it boils down to. Most people just don't.
How does that feel?
Well, actually what's interesting is despite the slight fluctuations in James's his body weight and lean body mass, really metabolic rate didn't change appreciably. And I think people put too much credence on metabolic rate. Unless he has tremendous increases or decreases in body mass, it's really just not going to change much at all.
Do you think there are other health benefits from periodic short-term calorie restrictions?
In terms of health benefits, it's not clear that if you did, let's say, short-term caloric restriction for a couple weeks, every 6 months, if that would confer some sort of health benefit. At the end of the day, since James is already in great shape, he already eats well, it's not clear that doing caloric restriction for X number of weeks will help him. How that applies to people who don't train as hard is a different question, and at this point we just don't know.
Do you think any of the lost muscle from the 3 weeks was really lost, like breakdown of the proteins, or simply just water loss from the low carbs?
I think most of his weight loss, lean body mass loss, is really just water loss because he's cutting calories, muscle glycogen drops, and you're storing water with muscle glycogen. So the loss of muscle glycogen, loss of water contributed to, quote, the lean body mass loss, but it's really not skeletal muscle. He maintained skeletal muscle primarily because he trained so hard.
Cool. All right, thank you. Appreciate it. Well, that was actually really interesting. Some of the results I expected, there was definitely one aspect that I did not expect. I thought that my body fat percentage had roughly stayed the same, but it actually came down more. So even though I brought my calories back up, I also increased my exercise quite a bit as well. So continued to make some progress there as far as decreasing body fat. Confirmed what I thought, that the quote-unquote lost muscle during the 3 weeks wasn't really lost muscle, it was just a loss of water. But when I was doing the metabolic testing, I was listening to Dr. Antonio talk.
The primary strategy for losing fat and maintaining muscle, for losing fat in particular, is you got to cut calories, maintain a high protein intake. But really, it's the exercise training part that helps you maintain lean body mass and even elevate lean body mass, because there is data to show that when you cut calories, maintain a high protein intake, you can increase lean body mass. So I think, it's difficult, but it's not impossible.
He was talking about this idea that even in a calorie restricted state, as long as exercise is high and protein intake is high, you can lose fat and build muscle at the same time, which pokes a big hole in, the traditional dogma that you can't do both at the same time. So it's not exactly easy to do, but you can do it.